we are just 3 days away from Super Bowl Sunday. Chiefs, 49ers. I'm rocking my 49ers colors, or is it Chiefs colors? I'm not sure. Thank you for being with us today. We've got a great show for you. We got basketball to talk about, college hoops. We got NBA. We got some PGA, which I know a lot of you were tweeting me about. Plenty to talk about, including the Super Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the stars of the show, let's look at the recap screen. Let's look at what we did yesterday. It looks like 4-3, but if I'm being honest here, two of us were on that Warriors moneyline play. So really 3-3, that's not where we want to be. We want to have a winning record, so we're going to try to improve on that today. Warriors moneyline certainly coming in very comfortably. If you ended up taking them against the spread, that hit as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough about that. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We got a busy Thursday, and you all know, this show, the odds are powered by BetMGM. And here's a familiar face to me, but maybe not to you, certainly not on the early edge. We've got Ryan Horvat from BetMGM Tonight. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing great, guys. Huge fan of the show. Happy to finally jump on with you guys. Larry, I think we've been following each other on social media for a long time. Good to see the rest of you boys. I'm here in Las Vegas, which usually I'm in my home studio when I jump on any of these. So I'm having some anxiety. Hopefully, like, my Wi-Fi doesn't go out. If I do, or if that does, then I apologize. But doing great, guys. We've been talking about this game for 2 weeks, so I'm just so excited for Sunday to finally have it, arrive.
Professional transition from Ryan, because not only have we been talking about it for 2 weeks, but we're going to talk about it in 2 seconds. Let's bring up the Super Bowl MVP odds. I mean, listen, we have talked about this game from every single side and prop angle. We're going to continue to do that as we approach Sunday. We got a special show Sunday for you, by the way, before the Super Bowl on this channel. With all of that said, Larry, I'm going to start with you here. Super Bowl 58 MVP odds. We understand how it works in the Super Bowl and in the MVP market. The nod usually goes to the quarterback. So if you're listening to the podcast, let me just tell you, if you're not looking at this on YouTube, Patrick Mahomes is plus 135. Brock Purdy is plus 230. A slight drop off to CMC at plus 450, and then a bigger one to Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel, Pacheco, and so on. Maestro, any value here? What are you looking to take?
I think maybe we get a career achievement award and Travis Kelce becomes the first tight end to ever get Super Bowl MVP. The time off, he looks like a different player. He's fresh. He's rejuvenated. We know he scored 13 touchdowns in his last 12 playoff games. He basically gets 95 plus yards in every postseason game, and he has a 30% target share this postseason and against the coverages that he's going to be facing. I mean, the key question is, Patrick Mahomes cannot throw for 3 touchdowns, and Travis Kelce still get the MVP. Basically, he's got to catch a touchdown. He's got to get over 100 yards. We got to get the Swifties to vote on NFL.com. That's 20% of the vote is from the fans. And I was on some message boards and I saw that they're actually instructing them. How do you do it? Where do I go? How do I vote for Travis Kelce?
Okay, that's really interesting. And I got to be honest, I knew about that 20% thing, but it didn't occur to me that the Swifties would be, answering to marching orders, which makes a ton of sense here to get Travis Kelce that MVP. Proppy, I go to you, and it's so interesting. When I look at Travis Kelce, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because we know the condensed target share. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, they're basically getting all the targets for good reason. But it's hard for me to look away from Patrick Mahomes, which is why I kind of suggested earlier in the week Patrick Mahomes as the MVP instead of taking Kansas City money line, because I just think that's where it's going. With all of that context, maybe you're on the Niners side. Which of these MVP candidates do you like?
Yeah, looking at the board here, I think Mahomes obviously makes a tremendous amount of sense. Brock Purdy, obviously, if you're backing San Francisco, I do think this board is really efficient here when we're looking at these numbers. Not a lot of value to be had, at least as far as the first couple of selections are concerned. I do think there is some narrative support if we're looking at Travis Kelce, but I'm looking elsewhere. I'm looking for more of a long shot. I like your guy. See, I really like Deebo Samuel in this spot, around 25-1 odds. I just think Deebo's ability to impact the game as both a rusher and a receiver. He's such a versatile weapon. He obviously really seems to excel in these high leverage spots. And this is when you really unleash Deebo. Obviously Deebo having durability issues throughout this season, not really being able to stay on the field, but we're getting a glimpse during the postseason of what Deebo looks like when San Francisco, really takes the reins off of him and lets him be himself. So I like Deebo to get a lot of work in this game. I think he has a big impact. I think if he's able to hypothetically have a touchdown, obviously San Francisco needs to win the football game, but if Debo were to have a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, he would really have a great shot. I do think he'll be the focal point of the game plan for San Francisco, and if they win, he's obviously going to have a lot to do with it. So Debo would be the best value on the board as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Ryan, part of the reason that Proppy says Debo is my guy. First of all, I do love Debo. I do think San Francisco ends up winning this game. But one of the first bets I put out on this show on the early edge was Debo Samuel most receiving yards in the game at plus 450 at BetMGM, your spot. And I just like that number because we know what Debo can do after the catch. He is the yak monster. And in the short area where he's likely to be targeted early and often, I think he can break one for 60 or 70. And if that happens, he might be your guy at plus 450. With all of that said, listen, you might be on the other side of the ball. Maybe you want to be a little bit more conservative, which makes a ton of sense. Maybe you don't want to go to 25-1. Where are you at on this MVP board?
Yeah, so I don't want to come on here and steal Alex's thunder. I really do like the Debo pick. I completely agree with you guys, because of what he could do after the catch. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is just how good Kansas City's secondary has been all season. So I'm with you. I played some San Francisco futures before the season. We've been talking about this a lot on the show. Like, do I hedge? Do I middle with a little Kansas City? I really like the Niners in this game, guys. Like, I liked Baltimore last week against Kansas City. I hate betting against Patrick Mahomes. I hate betting against Andy Reid, but I really hate betting against Steve Spagnuolo. But we know what they're going to do in this game. They're going to blitz a ton. That's what the Chiefs do. They blitz, I believe, at the 7th highest rate this season, but they struggle a little bit against the run. And that's why I liked the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were going to go heavy, use 2 tight end formations with Mark Andrews back. And instead we only had 6 running back carries. I don't think that's going to be the case in this game, guys. I hate to come on here, give out a chalky pick, but I kind of like McCaffrey. We're still getting 4-1 odds plus 450 over at BetMGM. I think that's a pretty solid price, especially with what San Francisco likes to do. If you run off tackle against Kansas City, they're giving up about 5.9 yards per carry off tackle. That's why it made no sense. Baltimore didn't even try to establish the run. I think San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, that's what he likes to do. I think that's what they do here. I like McCaffrey, also just because of what he could do in the receiving game. He could have 8 to 10 receptions in this game. I see his rushing prop still sitting there at 90.5 over at BetMGM minus 115. I think he eclipses this, and I think he might be the MVP of this game. So I like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, Ryan, I mean, listen, that's not really that chalky. The chalky play would be to go with the quarterback, plus 450. You're talking about the same odds with my Debo Samuel play. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he's just going to get a ton of work. That Baltimore Ravens game plan obviously backfired in a huge way, and I think Kyle Shanahan's going to pull from that. Where's the weakness? It's against Kansas City rushing defense, and I think Christian McCaffrey is just going to get a ton on the ground. Well, you heard it from Ryan. He is co-host BetMGM Tonight. Speaking of BetMGM, new BetMGM customers can sign up today and get $158 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $5 and you will receive $158 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome, with bonus code EDGE158. That's EDGE158. Wow, this chat is full, by the way. We got Mackenzie Brooks in here. I think Mikey B is in here talking NBA. Listen, he's going to be on the sort of the NBA trade deadline desk. So you want to be dialed into Mike Barner, to SportsLine, Mackenzie Brooks, to Inside the Lines at 1 o'clock today. We've got so much content coming to you. And I know a lot of you have already referenced some of the PGA plays that we put out on the early wedge. So thank you for referencing that. But I got to say, we got another PGA coming your way. I need you to do one thing, though. I need you to hit the like button, and I need you to hear this message from our partners.
Caught by Kelsey for the touchdown. The 49ers are going back to the Super Bowl. The champs are still in it, headed to Vegas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a little PGA before we get to some college hoops, before we get to some NBA, and a couple more Super Bowl picks coming from the Maestro. Let me go to a 3-ball. Now, I like to focus on the matchups here. Usually the only chance I'll go to a 3-ball is if, A, I don't like the matchups, but B, is if there's somebody in a 3-ball that I can just kind of rule out. No offense against Kevin Stadler, PGA professional. He has no shot in this matchup. So this 3-ball really turns into a 2-ball pretty quick. Bo Hostler, minus 120 over Taylor Montgomery and Kevin Stadler. For the uninitiated, this is just a round 1 play. This is really what I specialize in. And my record so far, 12-3-2. Let's try to keep that going. Now, Taylor Montgomery, I will say this. He has been pretty hot lately. Like last year, he had a deplorable year. After March, he was really, really bad. He's kind of come back a little bit, but he's doing it a lot with the short game, with the putter. That's going to benefit him here quite a bit. But it's the ball striking that really worries me with Taylor Montgomery. So with Kevin Stadler out of the conversation, I've got Beau Hossler's ball striking, which has been a little checkered, but generally pretty good, versus Taylor Montgomery's ball striking and short game. Now, when it comes to that ball striking, I really think Beau Hossler has a huge edge here. When you look at greens in regulation, and even when you look at history at this course, Beau Hossler checks the box a little bit better than Taylor Montgomery. So again, short game, Taylor Montgomery really excels, but good news, Beau Hossler is good in the short game department as well. So I like this minus 120 number. I think Taylor Montgomery's kind of going to regress. He's been good lately. I think he's going to regress to just kind of an average player. I think we're going to see that in round one. I will say this from a matchup department. There was another matchup I was kind of leaning toward, but I couldn't make it an official pick. So take this for what it's worth. Adam Scott in the first round versus Hideki Matsuyama. I believe it's minus 110 each way. That's a lean toward Adam Scott for me, but my only official play here, it's Beau Hossler in this 3-ball minus 120 over Taylor Montgomery and Kevin Stadler. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody says, great pick. Well, we'll see, Chris Kish. I appreciate that. Everybody, thank you so much for being so active in the chat. Yesterday, we had a lot of activity. A lot of people put out picks in the chat, and some people tweeted at me last night, and they said, hey, I hope somebody tailed my play there that I put in the chat because it hit. Proppy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was in the chat yesterday. It was definitely jumping. It was a great environment. I do want to mention there were quite a few people on Clay Thompson's PRA under, which came in comfortably. So love seeing the under when the chat is hyped on an under. That makes me feel really good. And obviously everyone who rode with that play cashed in easily. So kudos to the chat.
Kudos to the chat, indeed. I distinctly remember Dan Clark putting a bet in the chat, a same-game parlay, something to that effect that ended up hitting. Maestro, go ahead.
Yeah, I got to jump in. I was at a little gathering with CBS last night, and I was surprised. I shouldn't have been, though. There was a lot of positive feedback about the early edge, and specifically about the early edge community and the chat, and the kind of chat that it is in terms of how intelligent the picks are, and just the community around the early edge. So there was a lot of great stuff being said, and I wanted to convey that to you guys right now. And I also wanted to say, Ryan, I really love your angle if you're on the 49ers, which I'm not, because Kyle Shanahan, against the Lions, who are the pass funnel defense, the defense that you want to throw against, and you get down 17 and you still run the ball more than you throw it, he is going to stay committed. I agree. He's not going to get away from it like the Ravens.
Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at. That's what Kyle Shanahan does best. They run the football. And the only concern is, if you look at San Francisco's this season, Trent Williams is still great. In my opinion, he's probably still the best left tackle in all of football. But the interior of that offensive line has struggled. And the Chiefs' run defense, I know that's their issue this season. That's a really good pass defense, like you said. I really like their corners. They're so physical. They're tough. I love L'Jarius Sneed. But in the playoffs, these guys become different guys. Chris Jones is a really good pass rusher. But in the playoffs, he becomes just this dominant run stopper. But I don't think, like you said, I don't think Shanahan's going to go away from the run. And if you think San Francisco is going to win the game, I really do like the McCaffrey pick. Also, one more I'll throw out as a side pick, guys. I know that this has kind of become chalky. In fact, it opened at minus 110. Now we're looking at minus 175. I like Kyle Juszczyk just to have a reception in this game. The yardage went from a half of a yard up to 3.5 over at BetMGM. But I think he could clear this with one reception. Who knows? Maybe we'll get the fullback involved a little bit here as well.
Ryan is such a professional, and in this case, he doesn't even know it, because when we do our Sunday show, a little sneak peek, maybe I shouldn't be kind of spilling the beans here, which is the most dated reference of all time. I was clearly born a long time ago. But Kyle Juszczyk, first touchdown, 40-1. He is a big personality on that team. You get it on the 1 yard line. Maybe there's a PI. Instead of handing it Christian McCaffrey on first down, which you would on second and third, if this doesn't succeed, you give it to Kyle Juszczyk and you put your personality, your stamp on this game. Kyle Juszczyk, first touchdown score, 40-1. Although maybe it's a reception, right, Ryan?
Yeah, but I'm with you. Played that as well. We talked about that on the show. I played the anytime touchdown. Yeah, I'm a big Kyle Juszczyk fan. There's not many fullbacks left in the league. I love that Kyle Shanahan actually still uses the fullback. And like you said, if they get into the red zone, I think he might get a touch here. So I like the value there, like McCaffrey. Heck, I even kind of like Eli Mitchell. I'm looking at his rushing prop, 3.5. It's heavily juiced to the under right now, minus 125. But I mean, that could be one carry for 4 yards. And I do think San Francisco is going to run the ball here against Kansas City. And like we said earlier, I don't think they're going to go away from it or abandon it.
I love the Eli Mitchell play. All right, Proppy. I typically like your NBA plays because they kind of always hit. You got 2 plays here. The first one is in this Golden State game, and you've got a point total over for a player, which is great because this total is like an NBA All-Star total, right? We're like almost eclipsing 250 in some of these games. Warriors on a back-to-back. Talk to us about your player props.
Yeah, for sure, Sia. So starting with Andrew Wiggins, we're going over 11.5 points for the former All-Star. It's been a rough season for Andrew Wiggins, averaging under 12 points per game. He got to go back to his rookie year. The last time he averaged under 17 points per game, 16.9 points per game as a rookie. So it's been a real struggle for Andrew Wiggins, but starting to resemble the player that was a key, integral member of the Warriors the last time they won a championship, a guy who was really able to impact both offensively and defensively. The minutes have been trending up as well. Andrew Wiggins probably had his best game of the season last night against the 76ers, scoring 23 points and 10 rebounds in just 23 minutes in a blowout victory for Golden State. Now they're facing a Pacers team that leads the NBA in possessions per game. That creates really high scoring environments. They also give up a tremendous amount of production to opposing forwards. So this is a great matchup for Wiggins, whose arrow is pointing up. Had the little hiccup with the jaw injury, but that's not going to impact his playing time. I anticipate he's going to play upwards of 30, 32 minutes in this game, and 12 points is just reflective of his season average. Right now, he's averaging closer to 15, 16 points per game when he's playing in that 30-minute mark. So love this spot in a game that should be ultimately paced up. And then I'm going to take another shot at an identical line of 11.5 points over. Talking about Wendell Carter Jr., the center on the Orlando Magic, facing San Antonio and our guy Wemby. San Antonio, similarly to the Indiana Pacers, play at a breakneck pace. They're top 5 in possessions per game, and they also really struggle defensively, bottom 5 in defensive efficiency. And Wemby, or really the Spurs, has just been giving up just tremendous production to opposing centers. Wendell Carter, similarly to Andrew Wiggins, had a rough start to the season, really has been coming on strong lately, playing upwards of 30 minutes, averaging close to 15, 16 points, which has been right around his median average since joining the Orlando Magic. So we're getting a heavy discount on this number in a game that should be paced up, also has a high total for an Orlando Magic basketball game. So getting 2 discounts on 2 guys whose arrows are really pointed up. So love both of these spots. Andrew Wiggins, Wendell Carter, both to go over 11.5 points. I also want to mention I have 6 plays out on the site already. I absolutely love tonight's NBA slate. So if you're a SportsLine subscriber, you'd obviously have access to those plays. And if you're not, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Oh, by the way, there's one way you can fix that. You just go to sportsline.com/join. You type in winners to the promo code and you get 60% off our annual plan. At this point, I really don't know what you're doing, because not only do you get the picks, you get all the articles, like my golf article, for example, you get all the data, the projection models that guys like Mike McClure put out. There's so much to offer outside of the Propstarz winning NBA prop picks. I absolutely love it. You got to be a part of that community, 100%. All right, we got to get to our site pick. We got to get to Ryan's college basketball pick. We got to get to a couple more picks from the maestro in the Super Bowl. Speaking of SportsLine, so many Super Bowl picks out on SportsLine. But before we do any of that, one more quick break from our partners.
The madness doesn't just happen.
Yo, get ready!
And although it's marked on our calendars each year, it's built by moments of mayhem before.
And the crowd goes crazy!
And it begins to bubble long before it bursts. Sure, madness and March may go hand in hand, but it starts right here.
We're back, and let's just take a quick look at the SportsLine pick. We've got an over here from Tom Casale. Tom Casale, new to SportsLine. Hopefully you'll see him on this show, The Early Edge, very soon. It's Washington and Oregon over 155. Now, I'll tell you, this has actually gone down to 153.5 at BetMGM. So this is a line you can take and get the better of it at 153.5. I'll tell you, there were a couple college basketball games I was personally leaning toward. Utah plus 5.5 at home against Arizona was a pretty good look, but I didn't get there. So what I'll say about that is if I do get there, I'll put that pick out on SportsLine. I certainly need to rebound after 2 nights ago putting out a college basketball pick that didn't work out well. Thankful for the Golden State Warriors yesterday. All right. Thankful for Ryan being on this show. Ryan Horvat, you've got a college basketball pick as well. We're staying on the West Coast. What you got?
Yeah, let's stay on the West Coast here. I did play Utah. I played Utah last night, so I do think that Utah is the right side there. But my favorite bet is actually, again, hate to come on the show, be chalky here. I kind of like this Washington State team, guys. They're 16-6 this season. I think they're the much better team. Right now, they're laying 8.5, minus 110 over at BetMGM. This is going to be the second time they've seen each other this season. They won that first matchup 65-58. That was back on January 4th, I believe. Washington State, they've only dropped one of their last 7 games overall, guys. They had an 81-75 overtime loss to California back on January 20th. Since then, they've won 3 consecutive games. They beat that Utah team that we were just talking about, 79-57, had a nice win against Colorado, and then beat Washington in a tough overtime game. You know, if you look at the KenPom rankings, they're 42nd right now. They score about 114.9 points per 100 possessions, which is 48th in the country. I also think they're the better defensive team. They're 3rd in the conference in rebounding. So I'm going to lay it with Washington State. 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 games overall. I think they're the right side here, even at 8.5, minus 110 over at BetMGM.
All right. No apologies for being chalky here. Washington State does seem like the right side, and I love that you like Utah. Can I ask you, did you get it at +6 or +5.5?
So I grabbed the 6 last night. I still like it at 5.5. I actually think they're live in the game and could win this thing over outright.
All right. Pays to watch live, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your ear out for stuff like that because, again, I lean towards Utah quite a bit as well. It looks like Ryan has already made that play. All right, Maestro. You like college basketball too, but you know what you love? You love the Super Bowl. I know that because you're in Vegas right now with Ryan, not in the same place, but still in Vegas. You got a couple more Super Bowl picks to throw out. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, let's go with Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals, coming back at minus 125. He has not missed a kick indoors all season. The guy is basically automatic, 15 straight field goals that he's made. And the key is Andy Reid does not go for it on 4th down. 24th this year, 31st last year in 4th down attempts. He knows he has a good defense. He is going to take the points, unlike Dan Campbell. So Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals in perfect kicking conditions. And then on the other side, rookie Jair Brown, the safety who replaced Hufanga, over 5.5 tackles and assists, a little bit juicy at minus 141, minus 145, that neighborhood. You know, this guy got thrust into the spotlight, replacing an all-pro. He got burned for a 40-plus yard pass on his very first snap. But then he rebounded, made a lot of big plays, and then he got hurt. He hurt his knee. He was out a couple weeks. He wanted to play against the Packers. They basically didn't play him. They played Logan Ryan. They brought him back against the Lions, and what does he do? 10 tackles. He looked fresh. He was all over the field. He'll miss some tackles, but he'll make a lot of plays. And the way the Chiefs target the middle of the field, I think is going to help him reach this prop over 5.5 tackles for the rookie safety.
Yeah, I love your tackle props. Sometimes I see those come in like so early. It's really, really nice to see. By the way, Propstarz, I want to get your reaction before we put up the recap screen. It looks like we have breaking news from the chat. Mikey B broke it too, but other people have noticed Buddy Hield traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, who of course are going to be without Joel Embiid, for quite some time. We faded the Sixers yesterday quite successful. Your reaction to Buddy Hield going to Philly?
I think it's a nice move for the Sixers. Not sure if it necessarily puts them over the top. Obviously, we know Embiid, nursing a significant injury here. We'll see when he returns to the court. It's interesting to me. Buddy Hield has been rumored to join the 76ers really since he was a rookie in the league. So it's funny to me that it's finally taken place. But yeah, I think he'll add obviously some perimeter shooting to the Sixers. Have kind of fallen out of the rotation in the Pacers. The Pacers have a lot of viable options there at that sort of guard position. So makes a lot of sense. I think he will be able to find minutes on this Sixers team, obviously provide them with some three-point shooting and some defense. So I like the move from Philly. I think they'll still continue to be active. I'm curious what they gave up in order to acquire Hield.
Very, very interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's put up the recap screen. By the way, somebody was asking about buckets. He should be on the show tomorrow, but Chris Kish, he's delivering some soccer picks for if you want to look at that. And I'm sure he's probably not the only one. I know Bradley Jacobs usually chimes in with soccer as well. Me, I chimed in with some golf. You still have time to put this play in. Bo Hostler -120 and a 3-ball over Taylor Montgomery and Kevin Stadler. Ryan Horvat, Washington State -8.5. And don't forget, he also likes Utah Proppy. Andrew Wiggins over 11.5 points and Wendell Carter over 11.5 points. The Maestro, Harrison Butker, over 1.5 field goals. He has been a monster with the field goal kicking lately. The box scores are amazing. Check us out on FFT DFS today at 11. It's me, Mike McClure, and Meg Schaup. We will have a lot to say about Butker and all these players on Fantasy Football Today DFS. Jair Brown over 5.5 tackles and assists. That's also coming from the Maestro. And SportsLine site pick, Washington, Oregon, over 155. Again, that one is at 153.5 right now at BetMGM. So check that out. Somebody in the chat said Buckets has been traded as well. No, he has not been traded. He will be here with us tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, what a show. Thank you for being so active. Thanks for hitting the like button. Again, if you are not already subscribed to SportsLine, we gave you the promo code. It is such a good offer. And with MLB right around the corner, we're going to have NBA playoffs, March Madness. We're going to have a lot on the SportsLine site after the Super Bowl and, of course, during the Super Bowl as well, right here, right now. All right, we got to get out of here. A big thank you to Ryan Horvat from BetMGM Tonight co-host. He is absolutely great, and he drilled it today with the picks and with the analysis. Really appreciate him being here. So on behalf of Ryan, on behalf of the Maestro, on behalf of Propstarz, and Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 9s and 10s, this is the Early Edge. I am the counselor, and we rest our case.